Communities across the nation are facing a whirlwind of obstacles designed to disenfranchise, dismantle, and disrupt their livelihoods. Unfortunately, fighting against these challenges is not new to some people, specifically Black women. Yet we remain resilient in the fight against the system. On this episode of Shit Talks, we're diving into Black feminist politics, its real-world implications, and how we can look towards a future that creates long-lasting, positive change in the midst of our current struggles. This episode of Shit Talks is brought to you in partnership with Healthy Hood Chicago. Thank you so much for letting us use your space. What's good, everybody? My name is Naira. Welcome back to another episode of Shit Talks. You know what? That's so real. I did my own air horn, but I got people to do the air horn for me. Make some noise, y'all make some noise. There you go, yeah. I like the sound of that. Okay, cool. So I've got two lovely individuals here with me on a couch. Can y'all introduce yourselves? Who are y'all? How do you define yourself as leaders? Where are you from? All that good stuff.
Hi, everyone. My name is Frédérique Desrosiers. I am a first-generation Haitian American. I define myself as a leader. I really resist and resent hierarchical approaches to leadership. So I like to describe my leadership style as collaborative. I'm a very visionary leader. Like I have the vision, and then I like to work with others to create the vision. And I'm just pretty enthusiastic overall. So, yeah.
Nice. Make some noise for that, y'all. Make some noise.
My name is Noelle Bentley. I am from Cleveland, Ohio, and describing myself as a leader is kind of interesting. You find yourself in a lot of leadership roles, but I don't know how I would define myself as a leader. I would have to go off what Freddie said as a visionary, but also playing to who I'm leading, their strengths, finding out what they are good at and being able to give them that. Because for me, a good leader, everybody under them succeeds as well.
Make some noise for that, y'all. Make some noise. Beautiful. Well, there's no other place I'd rather be right now than on this couch talking to y'all about Black feminist politics. But can y'all tell us what that is? Or how do y'all define that in your own words?
Okay, so for me, I define Black women politics, or Black feminist politics, as more of a much different approach to regular feminism, because Black feminism came up as not just equality, but also for anti-racism, anti-forced sterilization, economic exploitation. So within politics, that is fighting for that, is being the person in the room that's able to shoot down big, beautiful bills and against interracial marriage and stuff like that. So for me, that's Black feminist politics.
I would say something similar to that. I think it's kind of looking at the intersection of the isms. So we know that we mentioned white feminism or feminism in general. Why we need Black feminism is because it looks at the intersection of sexism, racism, classism, all the isms of oppression that Black women face and that all of us face. And it's kind of tied into this idea that when we look at these issues intersectionally and we really address the root of their issues, we can really liberate everybody. And so one thing I think about when I think about Black feminist politics, like you mentioned, fighting, and I think it's very much rooted in struggle. And I think that sometimes we have a weird conception of the word struggle, and it's struggle is not the same as suffering, but struggling is actively fighting against the things that hold you back, the things that oppress you. And so it's I think about Black feminist politics as the struggle against these things that oppress us and on our path to liberation.
No, go ahead.
I don't know why you said that. I thought of a resistance band, how when you're working out the resistance band, you're always having to keep going, and that is kind of the epitome of Black feminist politics.
And it makes a lot of sense that folks have to actually step back and be Black women require different work when it comes to liberation than women who are not Black, and having to create that space for ourselves. So how do y'all practice not only just Black feminist politics in general, but then exercise the space where those differences lie between general feminism?
I think that's a great question. And I would say for myself, it's defining what liberation means to me as a Black woman, as a Black person, and just as a woman. And I think just continuously working with that. And there's a June Jordan quote where she talks about as a Black feminist, it's her duty to develop a sense of self-love and self-respect. And so I think like that's kind of how I practice it right now. And also like, how do I show up for my community, for my family? I think that's also like part of how I practice it.
I would also even going into just being a leader, like showing up, letting your voice be heard. Like, don't ever let anybody silence you. Don't let anybody tell you that you're wrong, because I feel like that's a lot of what we're told is always no, no, no. My dad always says, like, they're pushing back the finish line. They're pushing back the finish line, adding more barriers. And no matter what is, like, put in front of you, just continuously going. And even though you may, like, be tired, like we were talking about the struggle and the resistance, it's just keep going. Just keep going. And that's kind of goes into, like, other struggles that we have, but always keep going.
What are some of those other struggles? Because you were like,
Well, other struggles is in, like, not just racism, not just sexism, not just feminism, but, like, being in the workplace and not feeling adequate to your peers, not because you're a woman, not because you're black, but solely because it's the imposter syndrome. Like, why am I here? What did I do to get this? Like, you know that I know that I'm working. I know that I'm doing all this, but why do I feel like I don't belong here? So that's what I say about, like, other things, like, within our own mind is with that has been put into our mind from society, from the patriarchy, from just white supremacy. Just why do I deserve to be here? But knowing that you deserve to be here because you did the work.
no, that's so real. And I feel like sometimes folks don't even notice the toll that the outside world has on the way that we view ourselves as black women, as black folks, as women, especially because if you feel self-assured, you might be like, oh, I don't care what those people think. But it's like if you've been hearing that your whole life, it's hard to be like, you know, I'm just going to completely ignore that or just like, you know, be immune to the response that my mind naturally has, because at the end of the day, we're still human beings. We're not made of steel, right? It's crazy because when I found out that white men be applying for jobs they don't qualify for, I was like, let me step my cookies up. Because I was like, wait, hold on. I don't actually think I'm as confident as I can be. So speaking of that, what role does the media and politics and academia play in the representation and advancing or limiting of black feminist politics? It's a loaded question, I'm sorry.
I was going to say the media plays such a huge part in the way that black feminist politics is portrayed, because it's also about, like, the narrowing of each side. It's always against each other. It's always against. There's never any sort of unity. There's never any sort of, well, they feel this way or this is what's being said. Let's sit down and reflect. It's always, no, they're just wrong. Like, oh, this ghetto, da-da-da-da, hood, rat, whatever is saying this. And it's like, why are you saying that on the news? What made you come to that conclusion? This woman has 3 degrees and 2 masters, but yet she's still ghetto or ratchet solely because of her skin color. But it's also the people who are watching this, they're not going to go and do research on their own. This is their research, watching the news. So you know that if you say these 3 key words, that they're going to fully just disregard anything that that woman does for the rest of her career, because she's been labeled as this, and a label sticks.
And that's not like a exaggeration. That's something that actually happened, isn't it? Didn't that happen with, was it Jasmine Crockett?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marjorie.
It's like,
Was it Marjorie?
Yeah. You talking about the butch blonde bad bitch? So anyway, but truly speaking though, I feel like if folks don't, you know, that piece of media didn't come across their timeline, then it might sound like you're being, like, you know, dramatic. But it's like, no, someone actually got on the news and said that about a decorated, degreed black woman because she doesn't like her, you know, or whatever the case, or doesn't agree with her. Like, that's nuts. You wouldn't talk about people who you saw as equals that way at all, you know? Yeah. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think like there's so many wider implications of like the things like that people in power say, like calling them ghetto or whatever. It's like young black girls are watching this, and like beyond that, like we're watching it. So, you know, I think it just says a lot. Like you said, like we can be self-assured and know these things, but then you look at the power structures and see these are the people with power, like this is what they think. And you can see that like kind of, you know, reverberate throughout the systems that we exist in. But back to your question about like the media, I think a lot about like social media and like how there's like a lot of emphasis on like the gender wars. Like there's so much like designed to like pit us against each other. And so like as I was thinking about like black feminism and thinking about like what is the role for everyone in it, like there's a role for men, there's a role for women, there's a role for everybody, whoever they are on the spectrum. And so I think like kind of resisting those things that kind of are like put in place to like make us turn against each other is like actually really like well driven tactic that they're kind of like using to like divide black women and black men and create like this dichotomy that our issues aren't the same when we have so many shared issues. Like they're not all the same, but we have so many shared issues, and I think that as we like are navigating social media, like being able to like be like, I just saw this story that it was like a fake story that was like women bought all these sections, but they didn't like. I don't know. I can't remember what it said, but I just saw all these people in the comments being like, yeah, that's what women do. And I'm just like, this is a fake story. There's like no sources, no links, like just all these things designed to like make us mad at each other for no reason. And I think that like that's a reason why we kind of need black feminism right now, is to kind of like be able to engage critically with like what the media we're receiving, so that we don't, turn our backs on each other,
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm so tired of seeing a photo of it's like this situation happened with this, and it's in super bold print. Everybody's like, yeah, this is the news. I'm like, this was made on Canva. Yeah. This was made on PixArt, actually, not even on Canva. This is made on GIMP.
This is straight up somebody's opinion that they wanted to post as fact, and now you're believing it as fact.
Literally, no link or anything. This is not, there's misspellings. Okay, anyway. What are some common misconceptions then that folks have about black feminist politics? 'Cause I feel like a lot of times, feminism just by itself is always like, they want to do this and they want to do that, and whatever case. It's like, actually, it's not what that means. And then when you add like blackness on top of it, then there's like layers and layers and layers of misconceptions. What are some that y'all have noticed specifically, even in your personal lives or in general?
The one I hear most often is that black feminism is rooted in hate, and it's just because we're mad at the world. When I first heard that, or when I first like experienced that, first off, I thought it was a joke. Cause being rooted in anger because of everything that has happened to us, documented literally in the history books that somebody is trying to erase right now, how does that switch from anger to hate? It's not hate, it's reparations. Like, we want reparations. We want to be recognized. We want to be seen as human. That's not being rooted in hate. That's being rooted in a desire to be seen as a human. So I feel like that is also a misconception, that the call is coming from inside the house, your glass castle. Which side is actually rooted in hate, or which side actually leads with hate, or who is leading with hate, and fear. So that's the point of them saying that black feminism was rooted in hate, is because it's not. It's rooted in love and equality, but to put fear in people's minds is to keep people where they are. So if you keep saying these things over and over again and keep putting this fear in people's heads, then they're going to continue to stay on your side.
No, that's so real. I also feel like it's like a projection, because a lot of folks look for reasons to hate people. And they'll use anything as an excuse to hate somebody. So it's like the assumption that if you're doing anything to empower yourself, it's because you hate everybody else. Also, even if I did hate y'all, I feel like I have a very long list of reasons to, but I don't, because, that's not like a motivating factor, but it'd be a pretty good one. I think that it's really crazy to make it seem like folks are not allowed to be angry, because you see their anger is not like, it doesn't make sense because you don't actually agree with the reasons why they're angry. It has nothing to do with actually feeling like,
And then gaslighting them.
Exactly.
Being like, you are hating us because you're so angry. Nobody's hating on you.
Exactly. First of all, I don't even have the time. Second of all, why shouldn't I be angry? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't be angry, Yeah.
What have you done to make me happy?
No, really, ask yourself. Go ask yourself that question before you ask me. Let's start there. Period. Okay, go ahead.
I would say like a big misconception that people have about feminism is that, like you said, like that there's a certain way to be, and you have to like meet all these criteria. And it's like the idea of feminism and being rooted in that liberatory mindset is that people have the power to create the version of themselves that they want to be. Like, no one wants to tell you you have to be a mom, or that you can't be a mom, or that you have to be a provider, or you're not, or you have to get married, all those things. It's like, it's not like you're not a feminist if you get married and have a baby and are a stay-at-home mom. Like, the whole emphasis of it is that you create the reality that you want to have, and that you have the choices to create those the life that you want. And so I think like that's a big one, that you have to like be a certain way, or that, other people can't be involved in that. Like I was talking about like men earlier, like men should be involved in these conversations. I think that's another misconception, that like we see men as like the oppressor and that they don't have a role. It's like they do have a role, and we want to include them in the work as long as we're agreeing on the, the principles,
No, that's so real. I feel like that inclusion of like men, like it involves everybody. It's also for everybody's good. Feminism doesn't only benefit women, it benefits everybody else. And I feel like that's an important thing when we're thinking about liberation across, spectrums, is that like liberation for me, even though I might not have the same identity as you, still frees you in some way, shape, or form, because you're being oppressed by the very systems that you also might benefit from, but you don't know that. But yeah, that's very real. Yeah, you can clap for that. You can clap for that. Hold on. Sorry, I was looking at them. I wasn't even looking at y'all. Hey, y'all. Okay, cool. So I have a question, and it's coming from my personal heart because I need some advice, but also just wondering, how do y'all balance challenging misconceptions without overextending yourself? Because I feel like there's always this requirement or this expectation for us to teach folks. I be so tired of talking sometimes. I'm like, actually, never mind, argue with somebody else. So how do y'all balance challenging those things in your lives and in your work without overextending?
I don't. I think that my biggest thing is kind of like, I don't want to have to challenge misconceptions all the time. I think about it like a Toni Morrison quote that says that like the function of racism is a distraction to keep you busy from doing like the work that really matters. And it's like, I need to do the work that matters to me. I don't have time to prove to you that I can be a leader or that I am capable and I can do this work or whatever. So I think I'm still trying to figure out the answer to that. But the main thing is that I think our lives just need to be a testimony, and we don't need to be too distracted by trying to prove to someone who already is committed to not understanding or seeing it the way that we know is the truth. So that's kind of how I'm navigating that.
Emphasis on not committed to understanding your side at all, just wanting to hear you talk over and over again.
That's very real, yeah. I also feel like I have to find containers for me to actually have these conversations, because it's not like, some folks have the freedom of being able to talk about something and then walk away from the conversation because these identities are not like theirs. But I'm like, this is not, knowledge. This is not like academic for me. This is my literal life. And so maybe I don't want to talk about that, So yeah, that's very real. I appreciate y'all. So how do Black feminist politics challenge dominant narratives about womanhood, about family, about leadership? How does Black feminism specifically challenge that?
I feel like it challenges it because Black feminism is the desire for freedom. Like, as Frédérique said earlier, it's if you want to have kids, get married, be a stay-at-home mom, do that. If you want to go into the workplace, not have kids, not do anything, do that. It's being able to have the freedom that you want to have, to choose, and that's supposed to be the epitome of the United States. This is the land of the free.
Yeah, no, I'm wondering, that is so real. I'm just wondering how, Black feminist politics impact those narratives or challenge dominant narratives about womanhood and family, et cetera. And I think I'm specifically wondering about the Black aspect of that, because I think that, our narratives as far as womanhood and family differ from the narratives of womanhood and family for white women or women who are not Black, et cetera. So, yeah.
I feel like that's because a lot of Black households are rooted in matriism, like having a matriarch. But that's also to a lot of external factors like mass incarceration, police brutality, a lot of the spike in Black men killings, Black women too, just Black women right at a higher rate. I'm not gonna leave you out, don't worry. That is why it's a lot different than regular feminism, is because we had to take on a different role. We had to be the providers, the mothers, the caregivers, make sure everything is in order. So that's why it's very, very different and has a totally different perspective on the rest of the world. Because when they're telling you that a woman should be in the house, should be cooking, should be doing that, there was not that luxury for everybody. They didn't have somebody to provide for them. And that makes me think of The Color Purple. It makes me think of The Color Purple really, really bad. How Celie was just in the house cooking for a man that didn't love her and with kids who weren't hers and didn't respect her. And that is what was expected of her. So that's what she did. She didn't have any other choice. Her dad sold her off. So when she left and she found her voice and she found the power to be herself and go out and do what she wanted, that was when the aspect of the movie completely changed. She was a feminist. She was herself. And it was also pitted as, oh, she hates Mister. Oh, she hates doing all that. But one, did she have a reason? Two, did she really hate him, or did she just want to be free?
Yeah. not having the option is a very important, point, or not having the chance to be able to, like, a role being ascribed to women, but that not being possible for certain women, and then being left out of that conversation, and then having to like play both roles in the household to an extent, right? Then being seen as like that, like leading to Black women being masculinized as a result. It's like, oh, okay, your mom thinks that, they can replace your dad. It's like, well, where's, everybody doesn't have a situation where they have an option but to feel like they have to fill both roles. Yeah, that's very real. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I think a lot of what you said resonated with me. I think like when we talk about like the roles of womanhood, especially for Black women, like the reason why Black feminism had to be created was because like, white feminism really didn't create space for Black women to, and really like they had different issues, they had different struggles, they thought about things in different ways because of their lived experience was so different. So like even one example that we talk about like how Black feminism like redefines or kind of looks at womanhood in a different way. Like I think like right now we're in an era where there's like a lot of like tweets like, I wish I didn't have to work, like I hate that feminism was created because I like, first of all, like.
Are you mad that you can go to school? Like that's crazy.
Okay.
You mad 'cause people make sure you get, like what?
Okay. And second of all, like Black women always worked. So it's not like, this is like a new thing where we have to go to work. Like if I didn't work, I'd be the first woman in my bloodline to not work. So I think like thinking about it in that way. I also think like, when feminism was created, it wasn't really looked at from like a top or a bottom up perspective. It was more like top down. So it was like mostly like middle class women who had like leisure in their life and were able to like tackle these questions. And so when Black women were interacting with their feminism, they were like, this doesn't really feel like it applies to me or relates to me. And so I think like Black feminism like seeks to look at the issue like from the bottom up, like from the people who are the most powerless in the society, and knowing that if we can value and give power to the people who are the most vulnerable, then like you said, it liberates everybody. And so I think like looking at issues of not just like racism, which was absent from white feminist perspective and analysis, but classism, issues of women in the third world, issues of women who are disabled, issues of women who are incarcerated. And so like when we look at a lot of contemporary and feminist, Black feminists who created like the archives that we look at to define our feminism right now, we're looking very closely at these different intersections like disability, like incarceration. Like we have Angela Davis who wrote Our Prisons Obsolete and did a lot of work within the abolitionist movement to make sure that we're continuing the movement that Black feminists created in a current sense of abolition, when we're looking not at slavery but like at prisons and at these other things that keep Black people and Black women down. And so I think that's something that's important to think about in Black feminism.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you clap for that. You can definitely clap for that. Yeah, and y'all are also making me think about the idea of femininity in itself, and how like, whiteness sets the tone for femininity just like on a global scale across diasporas, and how like there's also a lot of like not even viewing Black women as women the same way that you view white women as women, as like some subcategory of like womanhood that then denies them the ability to be able to operate in these systems, like even within the confines of what people consider as like a benefit of being a woman. It's like, okay, yeah, men will provide these provisions for you or see you this way or keep you safe if you're white, you know what I'm saying? But not for me because they assume that I can protect myself, or whatever the case is. So thanks y'all for that. I also wanted to ask, what are some big and small ways that folks can support the work of Black feminist politics, not even just on a large scale, but even just like interpersonally?
It's a great one, like interact with the work. Like we have such a beautiful archive that our Black feminist ancestors have left for us. There's so many amazing books, writing essays that have such a wealth of knowledge. I think that sometimes we feel like we're starting from scratch when we're like looking at all these complex issues. And it's like they've actually done so much scholarship and research and analysis that we can like learn from and build from. Another thing is like get tapped into like the people who are organizing your community around issues that touch Black women and Black people. Shameless plug. We're working on a piece of legislation at Chicago Votes called the Race Act, where we're looking at restoring voting rights to people who are incarcerated. And this issue is so important for women, especially black women who are way overly represented in the prisons in Illinois and also just like across the nation. They're mothers, they have family members who still live out on the outside, who they should be able to have a say in the people who represent them, in the way their tax dollars are being spent, because they should be able to vote on like their kid's school board. So a way that you can get engaged and people can engage with the work is, figure out who's organizing around issues and get plugged in. Go to events, go to their lobby days, come to our lobby day. Things like that. I think also just like finding ways to create with and engage with the archives that exist like in a way that's like fun, like start a book club, share, there's so many amazing like people on TikTok who have such great analysis on like what's going on right now and are able to tie it, with good historical analysis and Black feminist perspective, like share that, engage with that, like let it change your lens on how you like kind of like see, the issues and how you interact with them.
Yeah, engaging with the work, like not just only on your phone, but then in real life, I feel like is super important, because I feel like we always say like, oh yeah, reposting and sharing is free, and it's like, yeah, but it's also the bare minimum, bring your ass outside, you know what I'm saying, or something like that. Open that pocketbook, hello.
Put change.
Yeah, exactly. Were you gonna add something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, even taking it all the way down, is that a baby?
Is it in here? Come here. Hi.
I hope this is a black cat.
I hope it's a black feminist cat. Please come over here. I need to ask you a question. What's your thoughts on catnip? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Hey, kitty. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't ask you any questions. You're also black and white, so I feel it's put on the sides.
It's caught in the middle.
Exactly, caught in the middle. It's okay. Don't worry. It's okay.
I was going to take it all the way back, just to even before you like and share, even before you do the reading, like, or shameless plug, Words of Fire. That's a great book. It has literally a bunch of essays right in there. You don't even have to go to a bunch of different places. Being open-minded, like not thinking that you know everything. Like, oh, I've been here, I've done this, I do this. I am a black feminist. Be open-minded. There's always, I think that's the beauty of not only the human mind, but also like the world. There is so much for you to learn. Like going into the tax scholars, where is this money going to anything? Like how are we helping Palestine? How are we going through these things as a country when we're supposed to be able to be out here and be the world leader when we are not leading the world as we're supposed to lead? So being open-minded, being able to want to learn, being hungry, just always have something that you're striving towards and always have something that you want to make a change in. And don't just sit here and be like, oh, I'm liking, I'm resharing, I'm reposting. Go outside. Don't even just open your pocketbook. Go knock on doors to your neighbors and ask them if they know these things. Like, campaign for what you know is right.
Can I add to that? Yeah. Like, another thing is, like, check yourself. Like, all of these, like, we talk about these different intersections of oppression, and it's like, are you being, like, ableist in the way that you're thinking? Like, check those things. Are you being homophobic? Are you being transphobic? Like, are you looking at the ways that you could also oppress others and, like, really trying to, like, change that and work on that? So I think that's another way that you can, kind of engage with the work of Black feminists in your everyday life.
Yeah. No, that's so real. You actually just read my mind, because I was going to say that internal aspect, right? Like, whether you're a Black woman or not, being like, am I harboring sentiments of, anti-Blackness within myself? Do I need to check the way that I view other Black women or view myself and my worthiness of liberation, et cetera? Like, interrogating those feelings about oneself, because I feel like sometimes when we fall within the confines of the things that we're supporting, we then feel like we are immune to, like, also being an enemy of the progress of the work that we're also supporting by the ways that we view ourselves and in turn view the people around us. Or if you're not a Black person or a woman, I've often said or often heard people say, like, to not be racist is not enough. You know what I'm saying? To not be sexist is not enough. You also have to be actively and continually in pursuit of not perpetuating anti-Blackness or misogynoir. It's not simply enough to not be that yourself. You have to, like, also be against it.
And even going into that, just be careful about what you joke about, like time and place. Like, going back to the harmful language, are you using that in a public space as a joke to your friend? Who's around you? Who's listening? When you are like older, like going to elementary school, if you're in 4th grade, the kindergartners are looking up to you. If you're in college and you're a freshman, and you're a senior, the freshmen are looking up to you. Like, always being on guard of what you say in public spaces, because what you say as a joke, somebody else can take seriously.
Yeah.
Kill the cop in your head. I'm working on that because like I'm a control freak, and so I have to ask myself like, am I trying to like control how this person is expressing themselves? Like, kill the idea that you have to like police other people and how they. I think like a lot of times as Black women, like because we know that we're existing in a world where we're being constantly judged. We're like, oh, like why is she doing that? Like that makes Black women look bad, and it's like, why are you trying to police? Like how she is, like kill the white supremacist in your head, kill the cop in your head that wants to make somebody conform to these like respectability politics. I think I'm still working on that, so I think, yeah.
We all are.
No, literally, I just started, I'm done code switching, actually. Like, I'm just gonna talk the way that I feel like I'll naturally talk, and you figure out how to understand all type of stuff. You can understand exactly what I'm saying, and if you don't, well, maybe you should learn, you know? Yeah.
African American vernacular English is still English.
Yeah.
So just because you may not speak that dialect doesn't mean that you have the right to just dismiss what that person said entirely.
Exactly, and I don't care about the English language. Very weak. So shout out to that. Make some noise for that. Yeah. They said, no, we actually just speak English. Period. So I have a couple more questions for y'all, if that's cool. Okay, cool. So you actually mentioned a book just moments ago. So I'm wondering, what are some thinkers, writers, activists that have shaped your politics? And also, what works or books, readings, podcasts, whatever, would you recommend?
Words of Fire, that's the book that I just stated. And I want to say Soldier of Truth's in there. Angela Davis is in there. Me being able to remember names is actually super impressive to me right now. And then going over to podcasts, honestly, anything that's hosted by a Black person. Right now I'm listening to Redefining History. It's about going back over history and learning a lot of the things. Like right now I'm on the medical malpractice and the forced sterilization. That was kind of like the reason that I first brought it up, because I was just listening to it in the car. And it kind of, the host is a Black male, and he goes back over history and kind of reshapes everything and tells it from the lens of how that affected Black people and Black communities. And in the medical malpractice one, he's talking solely to Black women about the doctor, I forget his name, I want to say Marion is his first name, who did the experimental on the father of gynecology, and he experimented on Black women non-consensually with no anesthesia, and we credit him to being one of the greatest minds in medical history, and that is shameful in all ways. So just finding podcasts that are reshaping your views on how you see things.
For me, I would say like Alice Walker. She's like the one she wrote The Color Purple. She created the term womanism in kind of response to like white feminism and making sure that we are creating language that encompasses the reality of being a Black woman. So anything by her is great. I would say Audre Lorde, Sister Outsider, is a great one to kind of inform Black feminist politics. Toni K. Bambara has a really good anthology called The Black Woman, and it has like works from like Alice Walker, Nikki Giovanni, June Jordan. Audre Lorde is also in it, and each of them, there's like poems, essays, short stories, and also scholarly analysis within this anthology. So it has something for everybody. I got a free PDF if you need it, let me know. I would say Toni Morrison. I mentioned Toni K. Bambara. She's the editor of that anthology, June Jordan. These are all great Black women authors that I think every Black person should interact with. They have so much and all of them actually were like in a group together where they looked at Black women's issues like throughout in America and throughout the world, and they have so much of a wealth of knowledge that we should really tap into. I think it's so needed in this moment. So yeah, those are a few.
You mentioned Alice Walker, and if I remember correctly, she was the person who really worked hard to make sure Zora Neale Hurston got the credit that she deserved. I'm pretty sure she was even in an unmarked grave, and I think that taking the time, and Zora Neale Hurston's work is what inspired me to write so much. Like when I was a shorty, I was like, this is insane. And then to find that out later on in life, it made me really realize that I have a responsibility to uplift the work of like the black women around me, even when other people don't find it valuable. And I think that that's something that we not only owe ourselves, but then owe the people who come after us to be like, this work is important to me, even if it's not seen as important to somebody else, because her work impacted me all this time later because she thought that it was important and dedicated her time and energy to that. So even as y'all are sitting on this couch right now doing that work, you know, clap for them, clap for them, clap for them, because I appreciate y'all.
I was gonna ask, if you don't mind me asking a question, what was the first work of words that you read that made you think of, oh, I am a black feminist in politics?
You know, it's crazy that you mentioned The Color Purple because that is the book for me, and that is the book that made me love Alice Walker, and she introduced me to so many other artists like Zora Neale Hurston, like Toni Cade Bambara, like June Jordan. And so, you know, The Color Purple, I didn't really know much about it. Like, I heard about it, you know, I didn't know what it was going to be about. When I read it, I was taken aback by, like, the beauty of her writing and also just like kind of like how sad it was. And so she actually has an essay where she kind of talks about how her book was received whenever she first wrote it. And you mentioned some of it before, like people were like, she's a woman hater, she's embarrassing black people, she's spilling all our tea in our business. And she's like, I'm doing the most radical thing that you can do and share my truth and share our truth in a way that people can see and understand and empathize with. And so like she is like one of my favorite authors, her and Toni Morrison. I love their like nonfiction, but I love their fiction, but they have so many like great essays. Like Toni Morrison, that's not my friend, I can't call her by her first name. But Toni Morrison has a really great essay called Peril, and another one called Racism and Fascism, which is so, like if you read it right now, she's passed away, but she wrote this essay in like I think maybe she wrote Racism and Fascism in the early 2000s. Everything that she wrote about is literally happening right now. And that's why I keep saying, like, they have so many answers for us if we would just engage with it. And so, yeah, I think, like, also reading their fiction and nonfiction, there's so much there. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking that.
No, yeah, that was really good. Yeah, no, that's so real. I think for me, it was Their Eyes Were Watching God. I watched, I was like, and I was a shorty. Like, I was like, and I watched the movie, and I was like, let me cut this off and watch it when my parents leave. Because I'm like, hold on. But there's something interesting that, you know, seeing, like, love from that perspective. And also just, you know, I think there's, like, two sides to it because, one, it's not always struggle, and like, you know, we want to be able to see black women like be in love and have these like beautiful and full and like, you know, fairy tale lives that we see like black women experiencing on the screen. But also, I came from a family that was not super functional, you know what I'm saying? And there was a lot of, and to be like, wow, yeah, like I'm not experiencing like the hardship of like love and blackness and womanhood is not unique to like our experiences in this household. There's a whole world out there where women are trying to figure out what it looks like to love themselves and where they fit into in the world. It just like, you know, changed a lot about how I perceive myself. So that's mine for me, yeah. What about you? Yeah.
I don't know which one I read first, either The Bluest Eye or Beloved by Toni Morrison. My mom had those in her study, and I was like, I'm just going to read these. But that kind of just, it was Beloved, because it opened my eyes to what we were running away from, what we were fighting for. And I think that was what kind of, you know, lights the fire in you. I remember a lot of people when they saw Black Panther, they're like, oh my God, I feel that fire in me. Like, he just inspires me. And I was like, I felt that with Toni Morrison. I've been on fire. Like, I feel like y'all are so behind. Yeah.
No choice, actually, you know.
Literally, no choice. So, yeah.
Okay, I got one more question for y'all, if that's cool. And I think y'all touched on this a lot, but what are some ways that y'all are addressing the underrepresentation of black women in your work? And how do you show up to your workspaces? And even if you want to like detail like the specific work that y'all are doing, how are you showing up to those workplaces in opposition of that underrepresentation? Not rock, paper, scissors.
For me, so I am the community engagement manager for a nonprofit called Reparations Media. We cover a lot of Chicago stories. Yeah.
Shout out to the people.
Shout out to Judith McCrae. But the way that I try and show up is when I'm going to an event or I'm going to interact with people or start formulating these relationships with other organizations. for me, it's kind of what I said about being open-minded and listening. Everybody has a story that they want to share. Everybody is their own individual. Every organization has their own mission. So what is the reason that that mission is in place? That's what we are trying to hook on to and showcase to the entire world, because showcasing a mission is kind of like somebody giving you their heart, in my opinion, because that's why they do it. That's what lights their fire. So being there, being present, listening to them, giving people a space where they feel comfortable enough to share their story, especially like we do a lot on formerly incarcerated. We created a video letting formerly incarcerated people know that they could vote. Partner with King Musa, shout out to King Musa. That was a surreal experience because not only when Musa and I sat down, he didn't know that he could vote. And it was like me sharing something that he didn't know. And that is one thing that I personally want to hone in on. Sorry. As we were talking about the media and how it's portrayed and how a lot of stuff is missing in the fire, a lot of the stuff is not shared on purpose because they don't want these people to go out and vote. They don't want these people to know that they have a voice. They want to keep you down. So letting people know and showcasing what you can do, how you can make change, where you can make change, highlighting protests, highlighting other organizations' community events, highlighting the Race Act that Chicago Votes is working on, highlighting these things that are actually uplifting our community and showcasing them to the city of Chicago, so that way everybody knows that we are actually fighting for change. Don't get discouraged because we lost the 2024 election. Don't be discouraged because ICE is in Chicago. We are working on it. People are fighting for this, so don't ever feel like you're not being heard or you're not being seen, because even though you may not feel it or you may not see it, there's somebody fighting for you.
You can clap for that. You can definitely clap for that.
So I'm the policy manager at Chicago Votes, and I talked a little bit about my work earlier. So a lot of my work has been around a campaign that we're running to restore voting rights to people who are incarcerated and expand civic education inside of our prisons. And we're doing that through legislation called the Race Act. It stands for Reintegration and Civic Empowerment Act. And so I talked about why that's important to us as people and black women. And I think that uplifting the stories of especially of black women who have been incarcerated and allowing them to speak about their experience on their own terms, and be able to engage and organize other women who are formerly incarcerated and currently incarcerated. I think just looking at that intersection of their identity, and also just like hearing about how them being a black woman has affected every aspect of their experience as being incarcerated, down to like why they were incarcerated. And so I think just like really trying to interrogate that in our work and making sure that that is like a main message that we're sharing with like lawmakers and community is really important, because a lot of times, just like in every organizing space, you don't always see black women at the forefront, or if they are, their issues aren't equally valued. And so just creating space for them to share their stories, and making sure that their issues are being highlighted.
That's very real. Thank you for that. Y'all got to clap for her too. Hold on. Yeah. That's beautiful. And yeah, I also want to share that I think that, and y'all work highlights that in the ways that y'all engage with community is also creating space for other black women, other black folks to be able to figure out what they want to do as far as their profession is or how they can contribute, and being a bridge where they can be connected to the work that they feel passionate about. I think that oftentimes, especially with black women, there's this thing where it's like, folks always say like, oh yeah, like older black women don't want like, the young girls to thrive and they don't want to see us, whatever cases, but also like, there have been a lot of black women in my life and that have created space for me to figure out what I want to do, and like carrying that work forward and being like, okay, there's not a lot of us here, so when they tell me, like I could bring somebody on, I'm looking with an open mind and not just being like, like challenging the biases in my mind. And if there is space for me to bring somebody in that can provide a more diverse perspective to the work that's being done, and that person is a black woman who might not otherwise have that chance in that space or that field, like then I think it's beautiful when folks take that responsibility to create that space too. So yeah, I encourage folks to, give other folks a chance to, do the thing. Okay, cool. Make some noise for that. Make some noise. Beautiful. Those were all the questions that I had for y'all. What questions do y'all have? Because I know y'all got some questions.
My question pertains to black women representation in politics. It seems like a strong correlation between the topic of black feminist politics and black women in politics, especially given the last presidential election, when we saw Vice President Harris receive the nomination for the Democratic Party, become the first black woman to receive that nomination. I'm curious to hear from you all your thoughts on the difference between black feminist politics and black women in politics. Because it seems like there's not always a correlation. Or is it as simple as a black woman in politics is the personification of black feminist politics? I assume no, but I would love to hear from y'all the distinction.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say that there definitely is a difference between black women in politics versus black feminist politics, because this is actually something that me and Freddie were talking about earlier, is that there are people, minorities, blacks, Hispanics, in these high-ranking places of power that don't have their best interests at heart for the community. They want it for the publicity, they want it for the money, they want it for the fame. So I would say that that's the difference, that is a black woman in politics versus a black feminist politician, is somebody who is a black woman who is in it for the community. Everything that she does, she gets up there, she doesn't care what people call her, she doesn't care what people say about her. She doesn't care about the imposter syndrome that she feels. She's up there doing what needs to be done for the generation behind her. For who's going to come after her, and setting that groundwork for how you want to behave, how you're going to treat people when they treat you poorly, how you're going to stand up to fight. So that, to me, is the difference between a black woman in politics versus a black feminist politician.
Yeah. I also think that when we think about black feminism and black feminist politics versus black women in politics, it's not that I'm automatically choosing or agreeing with somebody just because of their identity, but black feminist politics means that your identity shouldn't be the reason why you're not on the ballot to begin with, right? Like that you are not seen as like a peer, or that you're not seen as having the qualifications. The same way that feminism, I don't support all women. Although, sometimes I joke and say I support women's rights and wrongs, but also but truth be told, some people be talking, I'm like, wow, it's nothing going on in your brain. But I don't think that because you're a woman, I don't want to listen to you because you sound crazy, not because you're a woman. You know what I'm saying? And I think that where the feminism comes into the identity aspect of how black women show up in politics is simply just I'm going to root for the fact that you deserve to be in this space because you have the qualifications, just in general, even if I don't agree with everything that you say, think, or feel. Yeah.
Just to piggyback off that, I think that there's huge difference between black women in politics and black feminist politics. I think that there are very few black feminists in politics, is my opinion.
Go ahead, say it. Please talk about it.
And I think that a lot of it has to do with the black feminist conception of power, and we're existing within a white electoral power structure that is a representative democracy that basically it's still top down. And so I think that to truly embody feminist principles, you have to realize that you don't have any more power or less than anyone else. We all have the same individual amount of power. And so when I think about that, Candace Owens is a black woman who is in politics, and we don't share the same politics. I don't consider her a feminist. I don't know if she considers herself that. But I think that unless you're willing to really interrogate the role that capitalism and classism play in the people who are even want to be politicians, I think it's really hard to really embody those ideals and exist in the electoral politics sphere.
She does not consider herself a feminist.
But that does not surprise me.
Does she consider herself a DEI hire?
Were you silent or silenced? Oh, period. Any more questions?
I want to thank you for a great conversation. And my name is Daphne. And one thing I love about Chicago Votes is that you all really skew young and really reach the young people, the millennials, the Gen Zs, and now Gen Alpha, and really activate them. So I am older than y'all by a bit. So one thing I didn't really hear from you all is how your feminist, womanist ideology intersects with your faith. And dealing with, like, I'm a Gen Xer, kind of into my spirituality era, you know, and I'm thinking about times like talking to my grandmother where she's embodied the womanist ideology of, you know, I'm down for my people, I'm down for my community, but I need to separate, you know, and come back, and everything is for the service of the community. And I'm like, Grandma, you a feminist, you know? And she's like, no, I'm not. You know, so how do you all reconcile with the older women in your lives, and even in with yourselves, dealing with this faith or spiritual aspects, and how so much of Western religion is patriarchal, and although that we as Black people, Black women, are collectivists in nature, and even Black churches are more, you know, womanist types of places, even though we have mostly male figureheads. So, yeah.
That is a good question. And it's crazy because I recently had a conversation about this, and by recently I mean at some point in the summertime, but I think that, I'm a Christian, I love Jesus real bad, and I think that I'm also Nigerian. I am also Nigerian. I think that I'm also Nigerian. I'm also Nigerian, and so those two things on top of each other create a world where a lot of women have been lied to and convinced that they deserve less, and that the words and the culture that they are connected to, whether it's the words that are in the Bible or the words of the people that came before them, are in support of that. And I was doing a Bible study on the Sermon on the Mount, where Jesus was like, hey, this is what y'all gonna do and this is what y'all not gonna do, basically, to sum it up. And some of the things that the Bible Project did such a good breakdown of how some of the things that Jesus was talking about were in support of protection of women, like, you know, don't look at women certain ways, and don't just find an excuse to divorce your wife because of whatever case. It's like these words that have been like flipped or like misinterpreted are actually in protection of people who even the Bible scholars or the people who wrote these words saw as vulnerable at that time. And I think that when I'm having those conversations with my mom or whatever the case is, right, I'm not even like, it's not my opinion, like let's go back and look at it ourselves and look at the work that like the women before you did, et cetera, and see how like it lines up with the actual truth of what feminism is and womanism is, and not like a bastardization of what people say that it is. And also let's look at the words in this book and what they mean and what they say, and not a bastardization of what people think, you know, those words say. And so yeah, that's how I tackle it.
Yeah, you did.
Wow.
I would say when you asked that question, it reminded me of an Alice Walker essay in one of her books called Anything We Love Can Be Saved. And she talks about, you know, Black people's experience with Christianity. And one quote that she had that always resonates with me is like, it is fatal to love a God that doesn't love you. And so I think that Black people, we have created Christianity and God in a way that is our own. But also, you know, acknowledging the reality that like a lot of the reasons why we're Christian is because of like colonization and like white supremacist, indoctrination in order to like control us. But I think I love what like Black people have done with that in Christianity. Like my family is from Haiti, and so like in Haiti, most people are Christian, but almost everyone like. The idea of like Haitian voodoo, not in the way like Hollywood portrays it. It's just a spirituality. It's a way of seeing the world, and it's actually not in conflict with Christianity. It can very much exist with it, and it does. And so I think that, you know, in Haitian voodoo, in which a lot of Haitians don't really ascribe to, like the actual, you know, like practice, and you know, it's like kind of like the cultural aspect is there, but like maybe in most people, like my family who's like Christian, like. Is not going to go to like whatever their gatherings are or whatever. But like in the concept of Haitian voodoo, it's like the closer you are to androgyny is like the closer you are to God, because there's no concept of like a patriarchal God. And so I think that me connecting more with like with African spirituality, and I consider Haitian voodoo an extension of African spirituality, has kind of like helped me understand like the world before like, you know, the main dominance of like patriarchy and like white supremacy in a way that like values like collectivism, like you mentioned, like over individualism. And so, yeah, I guess to answer your question, I think that just knowing that like in nature, which is like a main tenet of like Haitian voodoo and like African spirituality, is like knowing that every human being has like the essence of God within them, and so because of that, like they are worthy of respect. And I think that's a very beautiful spiritual concept that I think that like has value for all of us, and I think is like kind of in line with like Black feminism. So yeah.
So for me, I guess I'm a little bit different. I didn't grow up in a super religious household. My grandma was religious, kind of, but not super religious. So for us, it was more of worship the people that came before you. So there's a really great documentary called In Our Mother's Garden. And in that documentary, I'm so sorry, y'all, I cannot remember names, but if you watch that, when you watch that film, there is one of the protagonists, she's talking about how are we supposed to enlighten and uplift Black people if we're praying to a white God. So one thing that is very prominent in my household was in my parents have like this dining room is just photos of our ancestors, like my great-great-great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather, my great-great-great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother. And those are the ways that like I deem my spirituality, is because I very much align more with spirituality than religion. And I think that that is the biggest way that Black feminism for me has been super prominent, is looking at my grandma, my grandmother, my great-grandma, my great-grandmother, and seeing the path that they took and the way that they went, and through them seeing the freedom that I have to do with whatever I want. I am the first person in my family to get a degree in communications and not in engineering or architecture or economics or something like that. So through that lens of you can do whatever you want and there's no limits to you, that is how I've seen it through my spirituality. Is the world is your, I know the saying is like the world is your oyster, but like the world is full of abundance and you have abundance to do like what I want to do. And yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a lot of play on it when it comes to religion, but I feel like I have a little bit different approach when it comes to spirituality.
And if I may, like that's a form of ancestor veneration, which is a tenet of African spirituality. And like in African, well, they're all different, but the idea is that you have like the ancestors who are the ones that you connect with on the spiritual level, and they are the ones who like connect with the higher God. So I think like that is a beautiful, you know, essence of spirituality.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and I also think, you know, if we talk about like free will and things like that, I also challenge folks to consider why, like, you know, God will give you free will, but then you can allow other people to take that free will from you, you know?
Yeah.
That don't even make no sense.
I was also even going to say, like, I feel like us up here are just the showcase of free will. Like, all of us have our different own perspectives on Black feminism when it comes to religion and how it ties in for us. And it's like, even up here, we had 3 different ways. You said you were Nigerian? Mm-hmm. Nigerian, Haitian, Black. I don't know what I am.
You Black, you said it.
Yeah. There are so many different ways that you can be who you are without having to feel like you have to fit into this box. Like, oh, I'm this, so I have to do this. Or, oh, I'm this type of Black, so I have to do this. So anything, we all fit under the same structure. So.
Of choice, the beauty of choice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, period. Make some noise for that. Make some noise for that. Okay.
How do you all reground yourself in your Black feminism and chaos, and still like know that you can move forward? Is my question. So how do you reground yourself in chaos?
Black, I ain't got time for that. Sorry.
That's fine. Like in community, and just knowing that our ancestors have been through so many iterations of chaos, just like we're going through right now, and found a way to like find community, find love, be with their family, create beauty, raise their kids. And so I think like that's kind of like how I ground myself. I just, I when I'm with my family, when I'm with my community, I feel like that just reminds me that it's so much bigger than me. And that honestly keeps me sane with everything going on.
Yeah, grounding yourself in community is a huge thing for me. I also, I'm gonna say a couple silly things. I'm gonna laugh and talk as much as I want when I'm in public. I'm gonna give myself a break from having to be professional or show up a certain way. I'm regrounding myself by allowing myself to take a nap and have a crunchy snack. Sometimes it's revolutionary for me to do nothing. If I can do whatever I want, if I can be whoever I want to be, maybe I want to be lazy. Maybe I want to be horizontal and laying down. Maybe I want to be quiet. Maybe I don't want to talk to anybody or do any work. Maybe liberation for me in that moment is yapping on the phone about something stupid or watching a show that everybody says is brain rot. Maybe sometimes a little brain rot, not always. Exactly, not always academia, sometimes rest. You know what I'm saying? I think that I reground myself by reminding myself that I don't want to continue the cycles of my own oppression by then feeling like I have to always be toiling towards my, you know what I'm saying? Really living in that freedom of choice. And then also having conversations with folks who remind me of who I am when I don't have the words to express that myself, because I feel like a lot of times you're supposed to be strong and stuff like that, and you always got to be like super confident, things like that, but sometimes I feel like shit. Sometimes I do not feel good about myself, and allowing other people to speak life into me when I don't have that energy is not because I am weak, it's because I trust in the strength of the people around me, and that's important too.
I'm literally gonna piggyback off of that.
Go ahead.
But hold on, snap
Go
for
ahead,
that.
piggyback.
Snap for that. Snap for that. Because even when I was younger, I felt a lot of guilt for having emotions or crying or something like that because I'm supposed to be stronger. So sometimes when I don't feel like crying, I go out and I move my body. I go for a walk. I go walk down some stairs. I go for a run. I go lift. Or even just a good shower cry every once in a while is great. Just turn off the lights, light a candle, have a good cry. That's a really great way to ground yourself and recharge my battery, because sometimes people think that when your battery's low, it's because you're on empty. I feel like when my battery's low, it's because I'm completely overwhelmed and I just need a moment to just breathe and sit down and stay calm. So that, hanging with my family, just reminding myself that I'm funny, or looking in the mirror and cracking a little joke, watching some Avatar: Last Airbender, find your niche of what you love and let that be your reset on you.
That's so real. You just reminded me that I have no unique experiences, because the lights off, candle, crying in the shower combo it's my favorite song. It's truly the song of my people. That's crazy. Okay, cool.
I'm turning on Frank Ocean too.
No, hello.
I thought that I was dreaming.
Come on, when you say I listen. Sometimes I listen to a heartbroken song. It's nothing wrong, nothing happening. My partner not pissing me off, but we gotta get the tears out. I
need to force myself.
Exactly, need some precipitation. Yeah, okay. Any more questions? Period. Thank you so much for all your beautiful questions, and thank you so much for y'all beautiful feedback and allowing me to join in this conversation with y'all. Can y'all plug yourselves? Tell us where we can find y'all, if you would like us to find you, or how we can support the work that you're doing.
You can support the work that I'm doing at Chicago Votes. You can follow, well, if you're watching this, you probably follow Chicago Votes. You can come to our lobby day. You can join the Unlock Civics Coalition. We are a coalition of 80 plus organizations that are working to end felony disenfranchisement in the state. We have national partners as well, so we need as many people to be engaged in the work as possible. And yeah, if you want to find me on Instagram, you can find me at I'm Frédérique, Frederique on Instagram.
Period. Yeah.
You can find us on Instagram at Reparations Media. You can listen to our podcast called The Change Agents, thepodcast.com. We highlight our stories, and we're always looking for new subjects. So if you know somebody that could be interested, let us know. Me personally, don't find me. I'm just kidding. You can find me at N Bentley. And yeah, if you are looking to highlight something, let us know. We love our community and we love Chicago.
Makes some noise for that. Makes some noise. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Shit Talks. My name is Naira. Make sure you follow Chicago Votes. And yeah, do your due diligence. Do that work. Get in that reading. Listen to an audiobook. And that's all. Period. Yay.